You walk into a room, and within 30 seconds you've already noticed that two people aren't making eye contact. Someone changed their hair, and the energy is different from last time. Nobody asked you to notice any of that. Nobody will ever know you did. But your brain cataloged it anyway, automatically, like breathing. And by the time you get home, you are drained. Not sad, not anxious exactly, just empty, like someone left every window in your brain open all day and forgot to close them. You are the person who catches the micro-expression nobody else sees. The shift in someone's voice that means they're hurt, but won't say it. The coworker who says they're fine, but you already know they're not. And here is what nobody tells you. That ability, that constant awareness, has a cost that almost nobody talks about. And it is not what you think. To understand why the most observant people are the most exhausted, you have to understand what their brain is actually doing all day. And it starts earlier than you'd expect. Picture this. You are 6, you are at the dinner table, and something's wrong. Nobody said anything yet, but you can feel it. Your dad's jaw is tight. Your mom is being too cheerful. Your older sibling is eating fast, trying to finish before whatever's coming actually arrives. And you just sit there, 6 years old, reading the room like your safety depends on it. Because for a lot of observant people, that is exactly how it started. It did depend on it. Developmental psychologists call this hypervigilance, the nervous system's learned response to unpredictable environments. Not every hypervigilant child grew up in chaos. Some just grew up in homes where the emotional weather changed without warning, where Tuesday was fine and Wednesday was a storm, and nobody explained why. In plain English, your brain learned early that the safest thing to do was notice everything. Every tone shift, every slammed cabinet, every silence that lasted a beat too long. And the cruelest part is that it worked. You got really good at reading rooms. You could feel a fight coming 10 minutes before it happened. You knew which parent to approach and when. And the thing about survival skills is they don't turn off when you are safe. They just keep running. Like software you can't quit. Always scanning, always processing, always on. And here is what is fascinating. Neuroscience actually confirms this. A study from the University of California found that people who score high on sensory processing sensitivity show significantly more brain activation. Specifically, the insula and prefrontal cortex light up, the brain regions responsible for emotional processing and environmental awareness. Their brains aren't just noticing more, they're processing more, and they can't choose not to do it. That is the part people misunderstand. This isn't a decision, it is automatic. The data comes in whether they want it or not, and that analysis doesn't just happen at work or at dinner. It happens everywhere. The grocery store, the subway, a text message with a period at the end that other people wouldn't think twice about. You read okay, and your brain immediately runs 40 scenarios for why they didn't type okay, or oak, and landed on okay. With a full stop, like a tiny door closing. That is what a single text message does. Now multiply it by every interaction in a day, every email, every meeting, every glance across the room that lasted half a second too long. But let's talk about what this actually costs, because the price is specific and it is brutal. There is a concept in cognitive psychology called attentional resource theory. It means your brain has a finite amount of processing power each day. Every decision, every observation, every social calculation draws from the same limited pool. Most people spend that budget on big stuff. Deadlines, conversations. The observant person spends it on everything. The big stuff and the micro-expressions and the body language and the thing nobody said but should have. By 2 p.m., they've processed more social information than most people process in a week, and they still have to get through the rest of the day. So they sit in that car, 5 minutes, 10, not checking their phone, not listening to anything, just letting their brain idle for the first time since 7 a.m. And here is the part that stings. Nobody sees it. Nobody knows you are doing it. That is the cruel paradox of observant exhaustion. People around you think you are calm, put together, quiet maybe. They don't know that behind that calm face is a brain running simultaneous analysis on every person in the room. They describe you as a great listener. What they don't realize is that listening for you isn't passive. It is a full-body athletic event, one that leaves you needing to lie in a dark room for an hour afterward. Psychologists who study empathic fatigue call this the empathy tax. The more accurately you read people, the more emotional data you absorb, and none of it gets processed for free. You absorb your friend's anxiety at lunch, your partner's stress when they walk through the door, the stranger on the train whose sadness you could feel without looking, and all of it takes up space. And let's talk about relationships because this is where it gets complicated. Observant people make incredible partners and friends. They remember what you said 3 weeks ago. They notice when something's off before you've admitted it to yourself. But that same ability creates a brutal imbalance because they're tracking your emotional state constantly, and almost nobody is tracking theirs. They know when you are sad. They know when you are pretending to be okay. But when they're running on empty, they don't signal it because signaling would require the same energy they've already spent on you. So they cancel plans. They need the weekend to recover from the week. They sit in parked cars before going inside. Not because they don't love you, but because walking through that door means turning the scanner back on. And the people who love them learn to recognize it. The slow replies, the quiet evenings. The way they choose the corner seat at every restaurant so they can see the whole room. Not paranoia, just the system, still running, still scanning, even when the room is full of people they trust. And there is this weird paradox nobody talks about. The most observant people often feel the most unseen. They spend their lives noticing everyone else, reading every room, holding space for emotions that aren't even theirs. And then they go home, and there is nobody doing that for them. Not because nobody cares, but because nobody knows to look. You are so good at reading people that everyone assumes you are fine. You must be fine. You would have noticed if you weren't, right? There is a term in psychology for this exact phenomenon. Researchers call it the helper's paradox, the observation that people who are most attuned to others' needs are least likely to have their own needs recognized. Because their competence at reading others becomes the very thing that makes them invisible, people assume that someone so perceptive must also be self-sufficient, that they'd ask for help if they needed it, but they won't ask. They rarely do. Because asking means admitting that the system they've been running since childhood isn't sustainable. And that is a terrifying thing to admit when it is the only way you've ever known how to be safe. But here is the thing that changes everything when you finally hear it. The exhaustion isn't proof that something's wrong with you. It is proof that something's working exactly as designed. Your nervous system built a security system when you were small, and that system works beautifully. It catches every signal. It never misses a threat. It keeps you prepared for anything. But nobody told you it was supposed to have an off switch. Nobody showed you how to stop scanning when the room is actually safe. Because when you were 6, the room wasn't always safe. So you never learned the difference between watching and resting. And the most important thing any observant person can learn, maybe the only thing, is that you are allowed to stop noticing, even for an hour, even for 10 minutes, that the world will continue to exist while you are not monitoring it, that the people you love will still be okay if you close your eyes for a second. That rest isn't the same as being caught off guard. And being tired doesn't mean you failed. It means you cared with your whole brain all day long. That is not something to fix. That is something to honor. So if you are someone who walks into a room and immediately knows who is comfortable and who is pretending, if you are the person who catches what nobody else sees and carries it home like a stone in your pocket, if you've ever been told you are too sensitive, too perceptive, too much, I want you to hear this. You are not too much. You are just running a system that most people don't even have. and it is okay to let it rest. You've earned that. If this hit home for you, please subscribe. And if you want to support these deep dives into the psychology behind how we actually work, hit that join button. I would genuinely appreciate your support. Take care of yourself tonight. You've already noticed enough for one day.